Ever get this kind of, like, eerie feeling? Like the universe is, I don't know, more than just stuff just floating out there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Today, we're diving into a real mind bender. What if the universe isn't just a place where consciousness exists, but it actually, like, creates it?
It's such a fascinating concept. And the really exciting thing is that it's not just, a philosophical thought experiment. It's actually got some pretty strong roots in science.
Totally. We actually found this really in-depth analysis. It was originally in Russian. And
Wow.
it explores how the universe could be this self-organizing system, and then within that, consciousness isn't some, like, happy accident. It's actually an expected outcome. You ready to have your mind blown?
I am. I'm strapped in. Let's go.
All right, so let's break this down. When we say self-organizing, are we saying that, like, galaxies are having these meetings that we didn't get the invite to?
Not quite. Well, maybe. You never know. But I think a better way to think about it is this. Everything in the universe, I mean, everything, from the tiniest particles to those massive galaxies, it all follows the same rules, the
Yeah.
laws of physics. And within those laws, there's this really amazing tendency toward order, towards complexity. And that happens even alongside entropy, which is, as we know, everything kind of tends toward disorder.
Right, like my apartment. That's entropy.
Yes,
The ultimate force of chaos, no matter how hard I try.
exactly. But here's where things get really, really interesting. The universe doesn't just give in to that chaos. It uses those basic laws, those rules, to create order. So think about like how galaxies form. You've got these massive collections of stars and gas, and they're all held together in this like intricate dance of gravity. Or even closer to home, think about life on Earth. It's become so complex. The elegant structure of DNA, or even how our brains are wired with like billions of neurons. It's mind-blowing.
It's like these systems are fighting back against this urge to just descend into chaos.
Yeah.
But how does that even work? Is there some kind of, like, a plan? Is there a blueprint the universe is following?
That's the beautiful thing. There doesn't need to be this like grand conductor for the orchestra of self-organization. It all just comes down to those fundamental laws of physics. Our source talks about these things called dissipative structures, which are basically systems that stay organized by constantly exchanging energy with their surroundings. And guess what? We are those systems.
Wait, so you're telling me we're just walking, talking, dissipative structures?
Living, breathing examples of this process in action.
That's going to be a conversation starter. Okay, so how does all this link back to a self-aware universe?
Well, it all kind of points to this really fascinating pattern from the Big Bang to the evolution of life, right? What we see is this really clear progression towards more and more complexity. We started with a universe full of basically hydrogen and helium, and from that we got stars, planets, eventually life itself. And here on Earth, that life went from these single-celled organisms to beings that are capable of contemplating the universe. So this whole journey makes consciousness seem less like this random occurrence and more like a natural step in the universe's evolution.
Okay, so the universe likes to get organized. Complexity seems to be its thing. But does physics actually back up this whole self-aware universe idea? I haven't noticed any galaxies booking appointments with therapists.
Well, you won't find consciousness listed as a fundamental force next to gravity just yet. But there are these incredible parallels in how complex systems actually behave. And our source talks about this idea of nonlinear dynamics, which basically means that even what looks like random interactions can create order and patterns.
Like the butterfly effect, right? Where one butterfly flaps its wings and all of a sudden there's a tornado somewhere.
Exactly. Small changes having these huge, often unpredictable impacts. And this is where things get really visually epic. So our source talks about fractals, those mind-bending patterns you see everywhere in nature, like snowflakes or coastlines, where the same pattern repeats itself but at different sizes.
I love fractals.
Yeah, they're awesome.
It's like nature's art.
So true.
But how do they fit into all of this?
Well, fractals are actually considered to be a signature of self-organization. That self-similarity, those repeating patterns, they suggest a fundamental principle of organization that just exists everywhere in the universe. And this leads us to like a really mind-blowing concept from the quantum world, the idea that information might be just as fundamental as matter and energy.
Information. So, like, is the universe keeping a diary that we haven't found yet? What does that even mean?
It's definitely a concept still being explored, but think about it. Every particle, every single interaction, every event in the universe carries information. And some physicists actually believe that this information isn't just a side effect. It's the very foundation of reality, like a blueprint.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. So we're living in a universe built on information. Where does consciousness come in? Is every galaxy out there having, like, an existential crisis?
I love that visual.
Right.
We're not saying that galaxies are, sitting around debating philosophy just yet, although who knows, but this is where emergence comes in. So imagine like a city. From a distance, it's just buildings and lights. But when you get up close, you experience its culture, its energy, all that activity from the people. That vibrancy, that's emergence. And in a similar way, consciousness could be this emergent property of these super complex information processing systems, like our brains.
So our consciousness is like the bustling city lights of our brains. That's a pretty wild thought.
Exactly, yeah. Our source actually mentions this theory called integrated information theory, or IIT, and it suggests that you could measure consciousness.
By how well it integrates information.
Right, exactly.
So more information, more consciousness. If we take this whole universe built on information to its ultimate conclusion, right?
Yeah.
And we're saying consciousness can emerge from these complex information processing systems.
Yeah.
Does that mean?
It could mean that consciousness isn't some cosmic anomaly.
Right.
It might just be a natural consequence of how the universe has built this self-organizing information-rich system.
Okay.
It's a pretty big shift in perspective.
Yeah, it is.
And of course, our source presents these really compelling ideas, but we're still a long way from fully understanding consciousness itself.
Totally. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's say for a second that this is it. This is the theory.
Okay.
We're talking about a universe potentially teeming with consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
What would that even look like? Is it just this giant cosmic block party where beings from different galaxies are all just hanging out, swapping stories?
You're venturing into...
I'm trying to picture it.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Yeah.
It's a fun thought experiment for sure.
Yeah.
If consciousness really is this product of how the universe naturally evolves,
Yeah.
then it's not just possible, it's pretty likely that other forms of life, other minds, exist out there in the vastness of space.
Right.
Our source brings up the Drake equation, which, as you might know, is a way to try to estimate how many civilizations capable of communication could be out there just in our galaxy alone.
Oh, the Drake equation, yeah.
Always a recipe for some pretty mind-blowing possibilities.
Oh, for sure.
While the equation itself is really more of a thought experiment than an exact calculation.
What does highlight how humongous the universe is and how many different kinds of life could actually be out there.
So instead of one big intergalactic party,
Yeah.
it might be more like countless unique expressions of consciousness just all over.
It's a beautiful thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
Imagine the richness, the incredible variety of experiences and viewpoints that would exist out there. From some alien intelligence pondering the secrets of dark matter to even something like an ant colony here on Earth working together with this amazing efficiency.
Right.
Every conscious being would add to the universe's tapestry of experience and understanding.
It's true. So we go from, are we alone, to, wait, are we actually impacting any of this?
Right.
If we're all part of this potentially self-aware universe, are we influencing it somehow? Could, our observations, our actions, are those things actually shaping the fabric of reality? That question, that has puzzled philosophers and physicists for ages.
Yeah.
Because it gets to the heart of this idea of the observer effect.
The observer effect. Okay, that sounds like a sci-fi movie.
Right.
Break that down for me.
In the simplest terms, the observer effect, especially as we look at quantum mechanics, suggests that the act of observing something can actually influence its state. Mm-hmm. So think about it. When you observe something, even something as tiny as an atom, you are interacting with it, even if it's incredibly subtle, and that interaction can cause it to change.
So just by looking at the universe, we could be altering it.
It's a mind-blowing concept, right?
Yeah.
Now, our source does mention that this effect is likely pretty limited on a cosmic scale. Yeah, but even on a smaller scale, it's undeniable that conscious beings, especially us, can have a tremendous impact on the environment.
Right. We see that.
Our source talks about the new sphere, this concept that the collective consciousness of humanity, all of our knowledge, all of our actions, is essentially creating a new layer of influence on Earth, almost like we're weaving a sphere of thought around the planet, interconnected with the physical world.
So our consciousness is actually shaping the planet.
It's a powerful thought.
It is a powerful thought. It makes us sound like cosmic gardeners of a sort.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But if consciousness really does hold this much sway, what's the end game here? Is there some ultimate purpose to all of this self-organization, to evolution?
Okay, so now we're wading into some really, really deep philosophical territory here.
I know, right?
But our source does throw out a particularly interesting idea, the concept of cyclic universes.
Cyclic universes. So, like, instead of a straight line, it's a circle.
Like a cosmic version of that circle of life.
Right.
Exactly.
Like,
So picture a universe that expands and contracts, dies, and is reborn, and these continuous cycles.
okay.
Our current understanding of the Big Bang suggests that the universe started from this single point and it's been expanding ever since.
Right.
But what if that's not the whole story? What if that expansion eventually reverses, causing this, like, big crunch, only to be followed by another Big Bang?
So instead of one Big Bang, it's more like a never-ending cosmic fireworks show.
That's one way to put it, yeah.
That's a way to keep things interesting up there.
And some physicists actually believe that there's evidence to support this whole idea. Yeah. Our source mentions something called the brain world scenario, which comes from string theory.
Okay.
Now, stay with me here.
Okay.
It proposes that our universe is just one membrane or brain floating in this higher dimensional space.
Yep.
And every now and then these brains collide, and that triggers these events like the Big Bang.
So we're talking about, like, a cosmic car crash, basically.
In a way, yes.
Okay, so that's a lot to take in.
Yeah, we're getting into some pretty complex physics here.
For sure. But I have to say, this whole idea of a universe constantly being reborn, it's pretty captivating.
Yeah, it really makes you think about what is time in that context.
Exactly. But how does this connect back to a self-aware universe?
That's where things get really, really interesting.
Okay, hit me with it.
Imagine if each cycle of the universe, every Big Bang and Big Crunch, isn't just a repeat, but it's a step in an evolutionary process.
Okay.
Just like life on Earth has evolved over billions of years, maybe the universe itself evolves with each cycle, becoming more complex, more organized, with each rebirth.
Each cycle, a chance for the universe to, like, level up.
Exactly. And maybe even become more self-aware in the process.
So with all this talk about, self-organizing universes and quantum consciousness and these cosmic cycles, it's easy to get carried away with the speculation here.
Oh, for sure.
So is there any evidence? What kind of evidence supports any of this? Are we just spinning a really good story, or is there some actual science behind these ideas?
It really is the big question, isn't it? Like, are we just along for the ride? Or do we actually play a part in how this whole universe evolves?
Yeah, it's like we've been handed the oak cord on a road trip across the universe, and suddenly there's all this pressure to pick the right music. So what does our source say about our role in all of this? Are we really cosmic DJs, or are we just passengers in the back seat?
Well, our source doesn't exactly give us any concrete answers, which I think is part of what makes this whole concept so intriguing.
Right.
But it does encourage us to think about the implications of what a self-aware universe would actually mean.
Okay.
Because if consciousness isn't just this, like, fluke, if it's a natural result of the universe's own evolution,
Yeah.
then every choice that we make, every action we take, it takes on a whole new level of importance.
It's like realizing that we're not just painting a picture, but we're adding our own brushstrokes to the universe's self-portrait.
Exactly. So every act of kindness, every scientific breakthrough, even every work of art, it all contributes to this incredible tapestry of experience that makes up the universe's self-awareness.
But also, like, our capacity for conflict, for destruction, for short-sighted thinking, those things play a role too.
They do, yeah, absolutely.
So it's not just about whether we're shaping the universe, but how we're shaping it.
It's a big responsibility.
It is. So if we really are part of a self-aware universe, then all of a sudden our ethical choices, they become even more significant, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
We're not just responsible for our planet or even our species, but for the role that we play in the universe's, like, ongoing journey of self-discovery.
That's a heavy thought, isn't it?
It's a lot. It's both daunting, but also incredibly inspiring. So what's the big takeaway here? What should we be thinking about as we go about our day, knowing that we might just be this tiny little part of the universe that's waking up to itself?
I think the most important thing to remember, even with all of these unanswered questions, is that this idea of a self-aware universe, it gives us a whole new perspective.
Okay.
It challenges us to see ourselves not as these isolated beings on this tiny planet, but as these interconnected parts of this vast, ever-evolving, mind-blowingly amazing cosmos.
It's true.
And who knows, maybe as the universe learns about itself, it's also learning through us, through our experiences, our successes, and yeah, even our failures.
That is mind expanding. Well, to everyone listening, as you go about your day today, remember this.
Yeah.
You might just be a vital thread in the universe's own journey of self-discovery.
And on that note, I'll leave you with this final thought-provoking idea. If the universe is indeed self-aware, what does it think about? What are its hopes and its dreams? What are its fears? Maybe those are the questions that we're all helping to answer each and every day.
And that is where we're going to leave it for today. We've been down quite a rabbit hole.
Down the rabbit hole, into the universe, and back.
Always a trip, always a trip. Thank you so much for joining us for this incredible deep dive.
Thank you.
Make sure to check back next week when we'll be discussing something completely different. Until then, keep those minds open and keep asking those big questions because that's how we learn, right?
That's how we do it.
We'll catch you next time.